Welcome back to Cryptolytics, giving you a fresh take on crypto analytics. Today, I'm going to talk about a couple of Solana DeFi protocols. Solana's generating some pretty decent yield right now. We have some pretty good stablecoin yields, and we have some pretty good long-term and sustained performance using the Friktion structured options products. So in this video, I'm going to cover those two. I have been using Friktion since December last year, and I have to be honest, I'm very impressed with the results. There was another one that I was a big fan of called Katana, but in terms of the performance, comparing the two, Friktion seems to have outperformed Katana, and I believe it's because it's smarter at which options to pick in terms of the expiry price. And I just think that the user interface and the user experience is just a lot nicer. They have better analytics and all sorts of other stuff like that. So I'm going to cover it. I've covered Friktion in previous videos, but there's a few new vaults that have come up that are really cool. And that's a way for you to get yield on the Solana ecosystem on tokens that are outside of the Solana ecosystem, like for example Avax and NIRV. So personally, I've been buying my spot Avax and NIRV on the Solana ecosystem and then putting them into Friktion's protocol to generate yield. And collecting options premiums is the traditional way to earn yield. And one thing that's come up in recent history with regards to DeFi is where are these yields coming from and are they sustainable? Well, the thing about options premiums is they are very sustainable because anyone who's trading options are paying the premiums in order to execute at the options expiry. But anyway, I'm going to cover that in more detail in the video. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so first we're going to talk about Hubble. So Hubble is a stablecoin, and yes, I know the first concern probably is what about the peg before anything else, right? Before we talk about what are the yields or what can you do with it, I guess it's what about the peg, like how does it maintain its peg? Well, I will get into that in just a second, but basically the main way they hold their peg is using debt. So it's collateral. In order to mint the USDH stablecoin, collateral needs to be put down. And the cool thing about this is when you put collateral down in the Hubble protocol, you actually earn yield on it, and you can borrow their stablecoin at virtually 0% interest. And then that stablecoin you can go and deploy into DeFi and earn some pretty impressive yields. So it's really impressive how they're doing this. There is a small fee. I think that's how the protocol makes its money. It's a 0.5% borrow fee. So let's have a quick look here and then talk about how it's maintaining its peg. And obviously one of the more important things is how many partnerships it's forming and if it is yet to spread across the ecosystem, because for a stablecoin on a chain to be successful, it needs to spread out throughout the ecosystem. So we'll have a quick look and see where USDH can be found across Solana's DeFi. So as you can see here, to mint USDH and for it to maintain its peg, it uses an open source arbitrage and redemption bot along with protocol owned liquidity. Now there's quite a bit of reading involved in this, but they've got an entire blog post on how they plan on stabilizing their peg. So they have this peg stabilizer module, or PSM, as you can see here. And basically PSM is similar to DAI, and DAI's been relatively successful, but DAI is a stablecoin that's backed by USDT and USDC, I believe, whereas this is backed by other collateral. So we'll quickly have a look and in a moment and look and see what you can put down as collateral in order to mint their stablecoin. But as you can see here, they use the same sort of similar module to make a DAO. And as you can see, it's tried and tested because they developed it in 2020, so back in November 2020, and it's been going since then. I've seen DAI, it's made its way throughout many different ecosystems and blockchains. And yeah, as you can see, as the liquidity really poured into DAI, it really stabilized, and that's kind of how a lot of these stable coins work, is that the more liquidity is behind them, the more collaterals behind them, the more stable they are. So here's a quick rundown of how they believe the arbitrageurs will basically take advantage of any depegging events. So what they say is, say for example USDH is trading at a premium of $1.50, you can acquire USDH and swap it for USDC on the market. So if a user acquires 100 USDH at 105, then they have $105 in market value. From here, they can get 105 USDC, assuming USDC is trading at $1. And basically what they're planning is that people will take advantage of this and then create these loops in order to take advantage of any depegging events. And that will bring the stablecoin back to peg, which is pretty cool. It's allowing DeFi users to arb the difference between the peg there in order to, I guess, make money. And then below the peg, you just basically do the opposite thing. Now, I think it would be reckless if I didn't bring this to your attention. So here is a stablecoin on Solana called NIRV or NIRV or Nirvana. Basically, this stablecoin suffered a hack and basically tanked about 85% of its value, essentially. That was a smart contract hack. So basically $3.5 million was drained from their reserves, essentially, and that was all stablecoins that was used to collateralize the minting of their stablecoin. They did go into detail on this. They did a post-hack deep dive. So unlike Ian McEnau's Casio, this was not subject of a infinite mint glitch. I'm sure there's others that have had infinite mint glitches before as well, but this wasn't one of those. It was a inaccurate pricing issue. So the hacker was able to buy the token at an artificially lowered price, essentially. And they were able to buy a lot at a very, very low price. And what happened then to the stablecoin's value? Well, it did like any stablecoin would do in this situation and took a nosedive, essentially. It's weird how the market cap hasn't changed at all, just the price. So that was this bug here, essentially. So the hacker was able to buy a ton at 6 cents, essentially, and then just sell it all to the market. Or I don't know if it was exactly 6 cents, but the amount that they were able to buy at an artificially lower price using a flash loan attack and then dump on the market, immediately dumped it down to like 10 cents or thereabouts. So that is Nirvana. So this is the sort of thing that can happen. Smart contracts can be hacked, essentially. They had some pretty good yields. I mean, 65%. That seems a little unsustainable, right? And that's some part of that, I think, could be right now because a lot of liquidity has been pulled from this. So that's probably why this is so high. So let's get into the actual protocol itself, because I mean, it's good to cover risks first before we dive into potentials, right? So just to remind you, Hubble is a kind of a lending and borrowing protocol. So you're able to put down collateral, earn yield on that collateral, borrow a stable coin or a stable asset against it, and then deploy it elsewhere in DeFi to earn yield on that stable coin. And because you're not really paying much interest to do that, it's effectively, if you were to do this in, say, Solend, for example, you would be paying to borrow stable coins around 2.97% APY, and that's after you sell off their tokens. So it's actually 6.66%, number of the beast. And Tether's 777. Well, what's with these triple numbers? So if you just wanted to collateralize assets in order to borrow stable coins and deploy into DeFi, this is nowhere near as good as if you were to do it in Hubble. Now, I trust Solend a lot more than I trust Hubble, admittedly, but that's still a pretty sweet deal, to be honest. And if I would probably wait before putting crazy amounts of funds in here, but if this works out, it's pretty nice. It's pretty much zero interest to borrow their stablecoin, and you can put down Bitcoin, ETH, Serum, Ray, FTT token, MSOL, which is the Marinade staked Solana, LDO, which is the governance token for Lido, ST Sol, which is Lido staked Sol, and DAO Sol, which is a banana Sol. I guess it's another liquid staked SOL. I think I've seen this before in Saber. Never touched it though. So yeah, you can, as you can see, you can pop down any of these assets as collateral, borrow stablecoins against it. The LTV I think is about, I believe 80%. Based on this is liquidation ratio. So, but you probably would only want to borrow like 50% at most, or less, maybe 40%. So it's like half of the liquidation ratio, if that makes sense. So like 50% is getting closer to 80. So you want to get a little bit further away from that, I suppose. This is kind of cool too. You can earn on ST SOL loans up to 22.68% APR. That's really impressive. Although I'm obsessed with Marinade Stake SOL myself, that's pretty nice having this this little extra added bonus. In here, you basically can see how much USDH you've borrowed and your collateral value, essentially. Again, using a protocol like this, you need to be monitoring, because anytime you're putting collateral down, especially in a bear market, you know, if the price dumps, which, you know, it may just do, we're teetering on the brink of a dumper at the moment, then you really need to be paying attention to this. And either you should only really use these stable coins to farm, ideally, because if you're using it to wind up about a spot position, or basically leverage up a spot position, and the value of that spot position drops, then you're going to have to pour fresh money into the protocol to top it up, and it just gets a bit messy. And I don't really recommend it. I have done it very heavily before, and that was during the bull market, and I realized when the bear market started that it was a pretty bad idea, in all honesty. But you know, you have to sometimes get burnt and learn the hard way with some of these things, right? So they have this earning tab, which is pretty cool. So you can actually have a look and see they've got a governance token, which is HBB, so you can earn their governance token. And they have all of these LPs basically, generating some pretty decent yield. So let's have a look at the stable coin pairs only. So here's one here on Orca, paying 8.95% APR, pretty nice. 10% on USDT, 8.5% here on Quarry, which is the another Ian McAleno special. So basically Saber, another Saber basically. This looks pretty nice on Radium. Look at that, 20% on USDH, USDC. That's really nice. Solana has well, what it says is 0.63, but there's an isolated pool in Solana actually that has USDH in it. So there's the stable pool where USDH is, and that's the one it's talking about. It's got a 95% LTV, but yeah, this is just not that great. It's a supply, and the borrow is 3.13. So you would probably want to use the Coin 98 pool, which has 13.27, but you do get exposure to the C98 token. So you have to collect this once a month, because the way the liquidity mining works on Solana is around the 1st of every month, you can basically claim all your tokens that you've accrued from supplying, essentially. And then basically, then you can sell them off into the market, or buy more stable coins, or then buy a yield bearing asset that you are long-term bullish on, like Solana or Bitcoin or something like this. And actually there is another pool here, and this one is actually the USDH pool, and you can supply here. There's some pretty good yield on ETH here, and this is, I think, getting you the HBB governance token. So I don't know how well the HBB governance token's going, but yeah, I mean, depositing your ETH in here, getting 3.64% on ETH and 3.69% HBB, so a total of 7.33%. On Ethereum is pretty nice, actually. And I've got some Bitcoin I would happily put in here to earn 4.5%. That's pretty nice, to be honest. It makes me wonder what other pools they have here with Bitcoin, because that would be, no, that's the only one. So if you want to earn extra yield on your Bitcoin, that's pretty nice. You put your Hubble down here, put some Bitcoin in here as well, I guess. I don't know. It's up to you what you want to do with this, but that's kind of nice. So there's some extra places to earn yield. This was a lot better the other day, but this is the Saber pool. And yeah, as you can see, it's 8.6. But thankfully, they're nice enough to put it all in here, so you actually didn't need to go to Saber to figure that out. It's sitting right here. As far as the TVL, or the total value locked in the protocol, it's not really locked, but I guess you know what I mean, the total value in the protocol. I love this little bear thing that DeFi Llama added. It's so random. It's still nice and steady, you know. It's just been going sideways for a couple months, I guess. It's not big DeFi season at the moment, basically, but it's nice to see it's steady, essentially. And actually, look at this craziness. Something's happened in the last couple of days. People have found this all of a sudden, and they've just chucked a whole bunch of money into it. Look at that. I wonder what happened here on the 14th of August. That was yesterday. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a whole bunch of people started using this protocol. I've been following this for some months, actually. I've been watching what they've been doing on Twitter and looking to see what kind of partnerships they've been forming. And yeah, there's just a couple of days where just all of a sudden they just have a whole bunch of people joining, and then kind of nothing for a while, and then just again a whole bunch of people joining. Millions of dollars in one day, and then 24 million USDT specifically on the 24th of May. Pretty random, but that basically covers that. So pretty decent stablecoin yields on here. I recommend, if you want to know more about this protocol, they're not really brief with their blogs. I mean, I guess I'm not really brief with my videos, so I can't really critique them on this. And it's better to be verbose, I guess, when it comes to text. But they do have a blog post here, so it's worth checking out before coming close to this stuff, and just keep in mind that this sort of stuff can happen. So just be careful with how much you're putting in there. And the next one I want to cover quickly is Hedge. So Hedge is very similar to Hubble. Basically, it's a collateralized stablecoin, and you can come in here and deposit your wrapped Bitcoin or your solid ETH, which is the standard SOL, MSOL, or CUSDC, which is the SOL and C token for USDC, which is an interest earning USDC using Solana, which is pretty cool. We put that down. They don't have any interest at the moment on this. I guess they probably will have it soon, or they did have it at some stage. I'm not sure why there's no interest on it at the moment, but never to worry, because again, it's the sort of thing where you basically don't have to really pay much to mint the stablecoin, and then you get their USH token basically. And yeah, there's some pretty interesting things they've got here. This stability pool, which is buying out liquidated vaults. So you basically can deposit in here, and your USH will be used to buy out liquidated vaults at a market discount. So that's pretty cool. Maybe it's a bit like Kajira, perhaps. And they've got here as well, this collect a portion of protocol fees. This is their governance token. So you deposit the governance token in here. You can earn up to 111% APR. Good chance this is kind of farm and dumpy though, so there's a good chance that this will just be going down essentially. So I'm not really sure. Let's have a look. CoinGecko. So yeah, this is what you're earning 111% on. So is it smart to hold onto this? It's not looking like it is. So this is DexLab. This is for checking tokens or TAing on tokens on the Solana ecosystem. Yeah, we had the classic launch pump, 300%. And then I guess this is just going to be, you know, like this for a long time. I know I'm a bit of a cynic when it comes to this stuff, but yeah, there's a chance. It was only just released. There's a chance we might see some small pump at some stage, but earning 111%, again, like, these protocols must hate people like me, who's just like, yeah, cool, you're earning 111% on your governance token, but the governance token's going to almost zero, so what's the point in earning that yield? Anyway, so what can you do with this USH? So pretty good actually, better than Hubble at the moment at least anyway. So on Orca, USH and USDC, 59% APR. That is pretty impressive. Hedge USDCH, 475%. So the way they're doing this is they're using hyper concentrated liquidity essentially. So if you don't know what concentrated liquidity is, it's kind of a new buzzword in DeFi. And the basic idea of concentrated liquidity is that you're allocating capital within a custom price range rather than a uniform distribution from 0 to infinity. So basically you get a band or a price range, and then you can basically set your low and high values, and then the APY or APR will adjust according to that. So I'm sure if I was connect my wallet, I could probably show you, but basically that's the idea with this. Is it would just be here, you set a low range and a high range basically, and then it gives you whatever the APR is, and it'll probably still be pretty high, maybe like 40-30% if you're a bit more reasonable. But I recommend looking into this because Uniswap 3 started doing this and it seems to be pretty successful. It seems to be doing pretty well. So yeah, something definitely that's worth looking into if you are curious about DeFi. So yeah, there we've got Saber 21%, that's a bit more reasonable. And then Solend 16%, which is also really quite nice. That's in the Coin 98 pool, which I showed you before, which again, you'd get exposed to the C98 token, which you would need to farm and then sell into a yield bearing asset, especially during a bear market. Great time to be doing it. And also Port has it as well. Same sort of deal, you'd farm their token, so on and so forth. So Hedge and Hubble are some pretty interesting stablecoins. Hedge is basically very, very similar to Hubble. In terms of what is available across the ecosystem, you don't really see much Hubble or much Hedge really. You see it in Solana, but Solana's pretty good. They onboard different protocols fairly well, but definitely Orca's got USH and also USDH as well. So, you know, Orca's pretty good. They onboard protocols as well, and they're all pretty good like that. So these guys are great, good team, shipping code, especially during a bear market. It's always good to see. And I guess I should just give honorable mentions to Port. As mentioned before, there's some decent yields here on Hubble. So again, once you've got your USDH or USH, you can come in here and deposit in here. So for example, if you took your USDC and then deposited into Hubble to mint their token, for example, or in Hedge to mint their token, and you could come and deposit in here just to earn yield on this just straight off the bat, which is pretty nice. We've actually got some alright yields on Bitcoin here at the moment actually too, and 6.44% on MSOL. That's really nice on Port Finance under the Hedge Innovation Zone. So pretty nice yields there. 8.69% on Bitcoin. That's really cool. On the Hubble one, yeah, wow. I've actually got a fair bit of my BTC at the moment sitting in Friktion because Bitcoin's kind of been going sideways for a while, which is a perfect segue to my next segment. So this is all the stablecoin stuff, basically, just Hubble and Hedge, essentially. UXD looks like a good one too, but I'm just talking about these two right now. Okay, now, first things first, I'm going to talk about a couple of the latest Vault updates in Friktion. Now, just to quickly cover what is Friktion. Friktion uses options premiums to generate yield, which is the OG yield farming and sustainable yield generation. People have been doing it for years and years and years, ever since options basically were created. These European options, so they expire once a week and can't be executed at any time, which is great because if price goes up and then comes back down and expires out of the money, then you still collect that yield, because more often that will happen. And if they are American options, then it means that they can be exercised as soon as they're in the money. So then you lose your options premium essentially, and the vault incurs a loss. So here are the latest additions and ones that I am using personally. Avax, how cool is that? And the other cool thing you can see here, if you go to the analytics page in Friktion, is you can see both the success of the vault thus far, and also it shows you where the price needs to go or needs to stay under in order to be out of the money. So a call option, often labeled a call, is a contract between a buyer and a seller of the call option to exchange a security at a set price. The buyer of a call option has the right, but not the obligation, to buy an agreed quantity of the asset. So basically, call options are just a financial contract that gives the option buyer the right, but not the obligation, to buy a stock, a bond, commodity, crypto asset at a specified price within a specified time. A call buyer profits when the price of the underlying asset increases. So basically, call up, you want the price to go up for a call essentially, Now, options have premiums. So a standard call buyer profits when the underlying asset increases in price. A call option seller can generate income by collecting the premiums from the sale of the options contract. What these vaults do is they write what's called a covered call, where basically they sell call options at the equivalent value or amount of the underlying security, or in this case, the digital asset. And basically to execute this, the protocol, so yeah, this is all done automatically, will write or sell call options on that same asset in order to generate yield. And it'll automatically pick every week, because it's weekly expiring options, which covered call based on the yield and how likely the option will expire in the money. Because basically if the option expires in the money, which means kind of going past the line, and I'll show you in a second visually what that means, the vault will incur a loss. Whereas if it's out of the money or under the line, then you collect the premium. I hope that wasn't too confusing. It's pretty hard to explain options, to be honest, but ever since I found out about these vaults, this is just a nice automated way to collect premiums on assets that you own. So it's a sustainable yield farming opportunity. And as you can see, most of these vaults actually have just had 100% hit rate, essentially 100% success. If you connect with your wallet and you have funds in here in the portfolio, it shows you your win rate. So for me personally, everything except for my Samo has 100% win rate. And the Samo had one loss essentially, but every single one so far since basically last year has expired out of the money, which means you've collected the premium on all of them. It's been great. Whereas I've seen Katana a couple of times actually lose funds because it was a little bit too ambitious with which options contract it picked. So this is what I mean. I'll just zoom in here and make a mess of the screen. You can see what I mean by in the money. So above here is in the money. So anything above these lines here, you can see there, anything above these lines is expiring in the money. And so you can see, for example, it came up here and then back down and then expired here. So there was no loss incurred on this vault. Same deal here, came up a little bit above, probably touched it. Let's have a look. We got pretty close. It was a $32 call. Actually didn't get that close at all. To this one as well, break even was 26. I don't think it even got to 26 either. But you get the idea. I've seen a lot of these, basically they come up, kind of touch the line and then come back down and expire out the money. That's why you hear on some other channels people talk about the max pain price and stuff like that. Well, this is kind of related to that. So anyway, at the moment, about 26% yield. And this is after fees. I only ever look at after fees because, I mean, this is more realistic. 26% yield on your Avax. I mean, you're not getting that staking. Pretty sure you're not anyway. There might be some yield in the ecosystem that's pretty good, I guess, but this is really nice. And for me, I just love that every week my Avax is earning, like, this is 0.26% yield in a week. That's crazy. 0.66%. That's like almost that's 0.5% just in 1 week. When you think about a lot of yield, a lot of it's like 5% or something like that. This is 0.5% in a week. And sometimes stuff like this can happen, where I think this is because it was at the start. Like 1% in a week. That's actually insane. So I've seen some pretty good yields here. The other new one is NIRV protocol, and that's brand new. And I've got a little bit in here. And what I plan on doing is aggressively, when the market comes back down, which I'm hoping it does soon, accumulating a lot more NIRV. Obviously NIRV, we've got the NIRVCon coming up, so you know, the times to aggressively stock up on NIRV has probably been and gone, but you can still, for very long term, probably could still accumulate some NIRV, but it's up to you when you buy it. Personally, I plan on aggressively buying a lot more a little bit later when the market comes back down a little bit, and that's when I will basically accumulate more and I'll pop it in here. And again, pretty nice. Like, this is what they estimate, but it's brand new. They only just started doing this. So most of my NIRV at the moment is on the Binance Smart Chain, but I'm going to be bridging it across over here. And yeah, managing it over here. I'm getting decent yield on it too. The only thing to factor in is that these vaults will lock up your assets for a week. So if you want to trade your tokens, this is a terrible protocol to use because it basically locks them up. So if you are expecting a dump in price, then I would pull it out a week in advance, but sometimes it's hard to know when that's going to happen. Like if you're waiting for like a break of structure or something like that, then having it locked up would be terrible. So this is for your long-term bags, basically. This is your hodl bags. This is basically where you could put that. Not telling you to put it there, but I'm saying you could. And another vault that I thought was pretty good is the crab strategy vault. It's pretty cool because it actually gives you a range. It does incur some pretty big loss sometimes, and it's designed for when the market goes sideways. So you can see here, this was the vault performance, but the gains are huge, to be honest. And Bitcoin often gets trapped in ranges, even though it's going up and up and up. It often will go up and then get trapped in a range, you know, barting up and barting down. It's Bartcoin after all, as I call it. Then during those times, you're getting great yields essentially. But yeah, this is up or the downside essentially. But you can see here, you know, sometimes you'll lose 2.5%, but then you'll gain 2.16 and then 0.14 and then 0.97. Then, you know, you can see there's some pretty good yields. It's pretty pathetic. Not bad. That's not bad. That's not the best. So, but yeah, like, oh, look at this. So yeah, it did lose 3.47%. It's pretty crazy. Some of these losses are insane. And then 1.45, and then it's kind of a reset with a little bit more, and then tiny bit down. So it's pretty wild, but overall it's pretty good yield. It's just a bit risky, I guess. But if Bitcoin enters a sideways accumulation, which I believe we may after this relief rally concludes, then this might be a really good place to put some BTC. So just something to keep an eye on. But here's the summary basically here. Basically, it uses a delta neutral automated volatility harvesting strategy. So yeah, pretty cool. The other one is the basis vault basically, which is a delta neutral basis trading strategy. Similar to the basis token, essentially, where it just basically deploys long basis position on Mango markets using the SOL perp and a delta neutral hedge, I believe, to collect the funding. I'm not exactly sure, but that would make sense if that's what they were trying to do, is collect the funding on Solana. But it looks like it's just really bad at doing that, so that's why I don't even mention this. I don't know if they're like doing a very good job at collecting the funding. I'm not sure if that's what it actually does. So if you want to know more about it, read the documentation, but its vault performance has been pretty bad. So yeah, $3 million worth of SOL is copping it. Long and short. So this brings me to the last section of this video, this very long video. Friktion is introducing Vault number 5, also known as capital protection, which is something we all need to do in this crazy time in crypto. Basically, we need to be preserving our capital essentially. So here is one way they're looking at helping us do that. So Vault 5 is designed to generate returns in a volatile market conditions. So it's kind of where we are right now, I guess. So while offering protection on deposited principal, and it basically protects your principal, which is really cool, and gives you yield on the volatility. So at most, you'll just lose your yield. You will never lose your principal, which is really, really, really nice. So it means if you put $1,000 in there, no matter what, you'll always pull out $1,000. But if the protocol does well, then you'll pull out 1,000 and X, however much you make from this protocol, which is really, really cool, to be honest, because that is one thing that kind of sucks. Like, for example, my Samo that I deposited in here, I deposited at the very start of the vault, and there was a glitch with the contract, and it basically, or the bot or whatever it is that does this, the protocol, and it incurred a pretty extreme loss here. So it knocked me 15 bucks of Samo on here. So this kind of strategy would prevent something like that from happening. So your long volatility and your principal is secure and protected. Very, very nice. So as you can see here, the deposit value is protected, meaning loss is limited to the interest generated. So the principal value cannot fall below deposited amount, subject to lending platform risks. So yeah, that's I guess smart contract risks depending on where they deploy the capital. So you can earn yield in volatile markets, pay out during sharp market moves. And at the moment, the only way you can use this vault is if you're a Lightning OG NFT holder. And in my last video, I mentioned this, where I wish I was a Lightning OG holder because I would be using this right now, 100%. So yeah, basically that's your that's your Lightning OG. You can see him here. There he is, a Lightning OG. And you can see it'll take us to Magic Eden, no doubt. I believe they're probably all exactly the same. Yep. Some people are trying to sell theirs for extreme amounts. Whoa. What's the floor on this? 5.5 SOL. There's 1,800 owners. And some people are trying to sell this for obscene prices. 5.5 is the low. Well, that's the floor, of course. Who's this nut job? This guy doesn't want to sell his, obviously. 70 SOL. What a clown. Alright. So there's the utility on it, basically early access. Discord role as Genesis wielder. Oh, you get a booster for potential token or NFT drops. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I don't have it. I'm not paying 5.5 SOL for it. I'll just wait and be one of the plebs that gets in on this later on. Needless to say, I'm looking forward to it though, because Friktion for me has performed very well. I put quite a bit of BTC in there, quite a bit of SOL in there. I've been putting all my Avax in there, and I don't really do the cash secured puts. They're not great for the bear market. They're better for the bull market because, as I was explaining before, with the covered calls, where the price needs to expire out of the money, which means you've got that line. Basically, if the price is going, so it's the opposite side, essentially. He basically needs to expire above these lines. So every week, he needs to stay above these lines. And lately, it's been fine, sure, but we're in a bear market. The likelihood of us going below these lines is very, very high. And not just by a small amount, by a lot. Which means that these pulls, 25%, 12%, huge losses, right? So that's one thing about these you have to also consider, is that if you're in something that could moon, this could moon, so that probably wasn't smart putting this in this, but if you're in something that could moon like crazy, then there's a chance that the options contract might expire in the money, and then you'll be exercised and lose based on how far in the money the contract expires in and is exercised in. But that's what's great about this. You know, this preserves your principal. I guess because maybe they saw things like that happen and they were like, what can we do to improve that? And that's what they've come up with. So you can either deposit USDC or SOL, basically, and they use Tulip. Great protocol. It's a leveraged lending and borrowing protocol. SOL, which is the money market or borrowing and lending protocol I showed you before, or Mango, which is a spot perpetual futures and lending and borrowing protocol on the Solana ecosystem. And you basically receive weekly interest payments while you deposit, and it will pick yield based on what's best across these three protocols. Pretty cool, if you ask me. I already have USDC and Bitcoin in Mango because the yields are pretty good. Got a lot of assets in SOL, and I've got some assets in Tulip, so I'm already exposed to a lot of these protocols anyway, so I don't mind being in Friktion, and I'm happy if it is willing to generate me yield and protect my principal. So the TLDR, which as you can tell I don't really do, verbosity seems to be all I'm good at, it generates returns in volatile markets while keeping the principal or your deposit protected, and it performs best in rising interest rate environments and high volatility environments. So yeah, this is pretty sweet. I would definitely follow them on Twitter, or just keep checking back every now and then to see when it becomes available, because this is really, really nice. And I can tell you right now, my portfolio performance in Friktion has been very good, even without the principal being protected. Apart from my Samo, but I don't really care about that. So that pretty much is it. Long video, I know. Sorry in advance, but I hope you learned something from this. If you did, please leave a like down below, leave a comment, and please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with my videos. And also check me out on Twitter, links in the description below, for more frequent updates on what I'm up to. This is Cryptolytics signing out. Take care and all the best. Have a good one.